God has made me in this kind of way. I guess you would call me resourceful. I would call myself resourceful. I think he would call me resourceful. In this way of like, okay, the theme of like what most people are going through in this day and age. The suffering, the loneliness, the feeling discontent, right? This sadness, the sorrow that's in the atmosphere, the fear that's in the atmosphere. What's all this about? Well, I think it's easy to want to focus our attention, and maybe you will for a time. You will have to burn yourself out in that way, and that will be the beginning of the process of giving your life over and your perspective over to God, because I think it will become too heavy. It'll become too big of a mountain. You cannot climb that in your own strength. But wanting to find an enemy and putting our focus and our attention on the enemy that is not allowing us to be happy, that has robbed us of having this what appeared to be a more hopeful future. Especially after 2020, it seems to be this shift that now the future doesn't look so hopeful anymore. Right? The future looks dark. We cannot see. This is making us feel all kinds of different ways. Right? And I think that it is easy. And again, you will have to just go this way if that's where you're going to go. To find an enemy or find something, I got to do something about this. I got to do something about this. But I don't think this is very good. I think this is where God has made me resourceful. Because I go to him and I say, what do we got? What do we got? And he's given me this knowing that there's always a purpose to a position. So the position that he has us in, the church, the world, everything, there is a purpose to it. We didn't just stumble here without him knowing that we were going to get out somehow. Right? We didn't just stumble here without him having a purpose to it. It makes a lot of sense. We thought we could see a future that was very hopeful for us. Then the world got dark. But the thing that I think that he can see is the longevity of a human's life is the future, the hope that we saw for ourselves depended upon the work of our own hands. So we're brought into this place where now there's this shift where it's like we're no longer looking to a future that we can build for ourselves that is worth it. Even houses are too expensive. All of it. It actually makes a lot of sense. So I'm just like, what are you doing? What is this about? Because we can talk about the enemy, we can talk about the billionaires, we can talk about the devil, which I guess is kind of all the same spirit or whatever, if you want to look at it that way. But this to me ends up not feeling very good in the long run. And I'm like, God, what is the purpose of being in this place? And I feel like what comes to me and what has come to me the last couple of days with such a heavy hand is it has to get dark before it can get light. It has to get dark for people to come to know of their need for the light. Because the future in which they envisioned for themselves whenever they weren't, the thing about ignorance is you don't know that you're ignorant until that ignorance is exposed. It's kind of the whole thing about ignorance. So like we were ignorant in thinking that our future was hopeful because of the shit that we were doing today. Right? We don't know until we know. It seems to be these world events that happen that actually bring in the idea that we're not so protected. We're not so protected in our own strength. We don't know what the future holds. Right? But for the longest time, you're kind of told, oh no, if you get good grades, right, go to college, right, you do this, you do that, then you can have a happy, comfortable life. And this is the best that you can aim for or whatever. And so we kind of have that vision, right? I'm going to get the person that I'm going to be with and I'm going to get the job. But all of it is just small-minded shit. It really, really is. Because it depends upon us having a happy, quality future. What that depends upon is us doing all the things in the present. And I think this is where God said, no, I'm going to allow things to be shaken up for you to be brought into the knowing that you need someone who knows your future. So that you can have this quality of life that you wouldn't have whenever you were responsible for bringing it about. And so I look at where we are. And I look at the feelings that we are having and all these things. It's kind of chaotic. It's kind of crazy. And we were in need of God. And I said, this is where we had to go, right? This is what had to happen. This is what had to happen. This is the day and age that I was born for. Because I don't know what it was before. I just couldn't see a future for myself the way that people envisioned it. I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen though. At least it's not going to happen for me. I wasn't made for that because it felt fake or something. And I saw a video about this where this guy's like, I don't trust normal people because to like coexist and be normal in society requires like a lot of lying, a lot of dishonesty with oneself. It's like we weren't made to aim at these things the way that we were programmed to aim at them. And so a disruption in that in the short term is going to have us disassociated and uncomfortable and fearful and sad and heavy and all of these things, right, in great darkness. And the thing about ignorance is we didn't know that before the world got shooken up and all of these sorts of things, that it was already dark. Because we were ignorant, we couldn't see how dark it was, like looking to our little lives and what we're doing today to build a future for ourselves. And how much that was just how we were programmed to continue to be slaves to a bigger system. We didn't know that was dark. It seems to be 2020 or whatever around that time started to expose, right? Started to bring an exposure to the bondage that we were in, right? That we've always been in. The bondage and only the bondage that we've ever known. This is why God is bringing people in, and for the longest time, maybe you're in a waiting season. What are you waiting for? You're waiting for a new way of being, right? One who's not identified with the work of their hands, so is no longer in bondage to them. One who has been liberated from an inferior way of seeing oneself, right? That required it to get so dark for you to come to know your need for a great measure of light to show you who you really are. It seems to be the perfect time for all of this to happen. So it has to get dark for you to know the need for the light. And so all the things that are happening with all the people, I feel for them. I feel for you in a way. I feel for myself. I know it's suffering, it's hard, it's scary, it's all of these things, but we're finding a resilience in ourselves. But we are getting so much more for our troubles. But this knowing of your need in knowing the one who holds the future, who has always held the future, but you were maybe ignorant to thinking you were the one to hold your future because you were sold this idea that's what your life was supposed to be like. And it can't help but be small because people are profiting off of you trying to consume and have all the things. And you're promised that all the things will make you happy because you see it in movies and you see it in all this shit. It's good that the world got shooken up. It's good that the fear is no longer dormant. It's good that these things are happening. Because it's like now there's nowhere to hide. There's less places to hide. And people, whenever you're used to hiding and you don't even think it's hiding, you only know that you're no longer there whenever like light comes on and shows you that you've been hiding. Right? You will just know what I'm talking about when you know what I'm talking about. We're busy, we're running around, we're going nowhere fast, and then God has you wait on Him. And then your hiding place gets exposed. These old ways of seeing yourself get exposed. This old way of being gets stripped off of you. And we're all preparing. He is preparing us. And so we had to go through this. It had to get dark. And I'm glad that it has in this way. Because at least it's not pretending anymore. And that's what I always had a problem with the life before. It just felt like pretend. Felt like people were just saying the things that they were programmed to say and aiming at the things they were programmed to aim at that they didn't even instill in themselves. Just being happy, comfortable slaves. And your family or your mom or your dad, they were either happy, comfortable slaves, and now you're like, I want that, so they can be secretly proud of me or whatever. Or they didn't have that, and you want to be able to give that to them. Regardless, we were wrong. We were so wrong about what life is supposed to be like and be about, and who it's supposed to be about, and how incapable we are, but how there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's so much to know. There's so much to chew on, and you have the time to chew on it, right? Before repentance is changing the way that you move, it will be the changing of the way that you think. So an inferior way of thinking has to be exposed and judged. This is where you will find, I've been deceived, right? His goodness comes in and says, no, I'm allowing it to be uncomfortable because you're not supposed to stay here. I'm allowing it to become uncomfortable and stay uncomfortable because we're not staying here.